Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a truly fascinating journey into redefining exactly how young knowledge workers communicate with older generations. If you've ever felt like you're just banging your head against a brick wall when trying to share a modern idea with an elder, a boss, or a senior decision maker, well, you're definitely going to want to pay close attention to this. We're looking at a paradigm that completely flips the script on intergenerational communication. It's about shifting us away from those frustrating dead-end arguments and moving toward a model of genuine, lasting influence. So let's get right into it. So here's the big question right out of the gate. Why is it so incredibly hard to explain new concepts to older generations? We experience this everyday friction all the time, right? A younger person comes in, they're fully armed with the absolute latest knowledge, the freshest data, and all these modern perspectives. They present it to someone from an older generation expecting this massive light bulb moment. But instead, they get resistance, confusion, or just outright dismissal. But here is the kicker. The problem usually isn't the information itself. It's our entire approach to delivering it. Okay, let's dive into this. When a younger person tries to sort of lecture older folks, the intent is usually totally pure. They just want to share what they know. But the result? The older generation immediately feels misunderstood and talked down to, and that just leads to a ton of mutual frustration and a severe lack of trust. By assuming the role of a teacher to someone who is much older, we actually misunderstand their real needs, we inject the wrong information, and honestly, we just end up wasting everybody's time. The absolute core mistake here is assuming the older person is just this blank slate. They aren't starting from zero. They have literally decades of lived experience, past frameworks, and really established ways of thinking. When you lecture them as if they know absolutely nothing about the modern world, it naturally fails. They aren't toddlers. They have complex, deeply ingrained perspectives. To really reach them, you have to understand exactly where they're starting from rather than just forcefully shoving your own starting point onto them. So how do we actually bridge this gap? Well, it requires a major shift. You have to go from being a forceful teacher to being an active, guiding listener. It really comes down to 3 steps. First, listen without forcing your own knowledge. Second, engage in a real, genuine dialogue to figure out their specific curiosities. And third, extract the key word. Ask them what exactly they are trying to figure out, and then just listen. Seriously, don't dump complex information on them. Guide the conversation until you find that exact piece of the puzzle they are actually missing. And this brilliantly illustrates a key rule. The key word comes from the conversation. You cannot force knowledge. You just can't. If you don't know what they are actually asking, be honest. Say you don't know, rather than just rambling on. But once you let them speak and you catch that specific keyword, that one specific gap in their understanding, you can tailor your modern knowledge perfectly to answer just that one thing. Suddenly they get it, and that vital trust is built. Now, why is it absolutely crucial that young intellectuals learn to do this? It's all because of how societal power is fundamentally split. Think about it. The youth possess the new knowledge, the fresh ideas, the tech, the innovative solutions. But who holds the economic and political power? The older generations. It's a real balancing act. If young knowledge workers cannot effectively communicate their brilliant ideas in a way that elders can actually understand, well, that knowledge can never actually be applied in the real world. Think of the older generation's power and resources as a massive, tightly locked steel vault. They survive the past by guarding it very carefully. Now, if you get frustrated and aggressively demand that power, if you try fighting the vault, it simply won't open. Elders can be incredibly stubborn, and there is no way they'll hand over the keys to someone who's just yelling at them. But if you organize your knowledge into a clear, understandable report based on that extracted keyword, you earn their trust. Make them understand you, and they will gladly hand over the key so you can execute your ideas. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the profound philosophical reality it brings up. Fighting comes from ignorance, not knowledge. Let that sink in. If you possess true knowledge and you use it correctly, a fight will never even happen. Getting angry, losing your temper, and colliding with others, that actually means your intellect has essentially gone dark. It is a glaring symptom that you literally don't know how to handle the situation. Take the political arena, for instance. It's a prime example of this dynamic. When progressive and conservative intellectuals just ruthlessly attack each other, they aren't displaying superior knowledge. Not at all. They're merely exposing their own shared ignorance. By resorting to these massive shouting matches, they abandon their intellect entirely. On the flip side, true intellectual power is found in wise guidance, completely avoiding the mudslinging altogether. The moment anyone resorts to fighting, well, they've already lost the intellectual high ground.
Because here's the thing, true knowledge doesn't create conflict, it resolves it gracefully. There is a very sharp distinction between a high-level human intellect and reactive, almost animalistic behavior. Having a fancy degree or knowing a bunch of facts doesn't mean a thing if you just use them as weapons to fight. When applied properly, true knowledge maintains harmony, it keeps composure, and it influences situations without ever needing to raise a voice. So what does this strategy of the wise actually look like in practice? Number 1, avoid shouting matches entirely. Just opt out. Number 2, articulate your solutions quietly and clearly. Number 3, let others amplify your message. If you write out a brilliant, well-thought-out solution, journalists and peers will naturally pick it up and spread it like wildfire for you. You really don't have to force it. And finally, number 4, through this quiet competence, you earn society's natural respect. When the public sees problems being solved wisely and peacefully, they just naturally elevate those thinkers. So the crucial point is this. It reveals the ultimate relationship between knowledge and authority. A president, or say a CEO, holds the power. But the true intellectual, when operating correctly, guides that power. If an intellectual quietly and effectively solves complex problems, even the highest authority figure, like a president, will come to genuinely respect them, invite them into the room, and actually ask for their help. You don't need to chase the seat of power, because the person sitting in that seat will naturally seek out your wisdom. And this completely redefines what it means to be an intellectual in the modern world. A true intellectual is someone who does not fight for power, but uses wisdom and tailored communication to guide those who hold it. They don't engage in petty squabbles, and they certainly don't demand blind compliance from older generations. Instead, they listen. They find that crucial keyword, and they translate modern knowledge into a format that authority figures actually understand. They sit above the power struggle precisely because they refuse to fight for it. Which brings us to our final, provocative question for you to take away from this explainer today. Are you fighting to be heard, or are you communicating to guide? The next time you find yourself getting incredibly frustrated trying to explain a brand new concept to an older colleague, a parent, or your boss, I want you to catch yourself. Ask yourself, are you just banging your fists against the vault, or are you actually listening for the key word that will unlock their trust? Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. Start practicing these steps and just watch how your influence completely transforms.